Hey there, everybody. I wanted to make a quick video to kind of help out our sprint teams with preparing for what's coming ahead this week. These are best practices and practical tips that I've presented on before, but I've kind of distilled them down a bit to apply to what everyone is going to go through next week. So hopefully these are helpful. If not, then certainly let me know, but let's dive into it really fast. This should only take about 5 minutes. So for those of you who have never done this before, or have never gone through this, there's a couple of things to keep in mind right off the bat. Go easy on yourself. This is a pilot. This is not anything serious. But for some folks, you may kind of approach it as being like, my goodness, I have to make this work. Understand that this is meant to be educational. This is meant for you to walk through and understand how remote sprints work. And there are other people that have done them before, like me. And if you want to learn from them, please do. They'll have plenty of good insight. They'll have best practices. Really rely on them to kind of guide you through this process. Beyond that, you definitely want to make sure comes your Monday, wherever you are in your time zone, that you have your house in order. Different people have different kind of equipment that they have and they need to be able to work with. This is just a subsample of what most people have, but make sure you have everything together before you start. You also want to make sure that everyone understands what you're going to be using for a whiteboard, collaboration, and so on. So far, we've been using Slack. For prototyping, it may still be an open question for your entire team, but you want to make sure that you settle on that Monday morning and figure out what you'd like to do. Same thing with testing and recording. Are you comfortable with Zoom? Would you rather use a peer-in? Would you like to use WebEx? And how would you like to publish what you do in the future? For whiteboards, we've promoted Mural, but again, you don't have to be pigeonholed into something you don't want to use. Feel free to, these are all suggestions on the screen, so feel free to use any of them here. You can also use a couple of resources I've found very helpful for virtual sprints. One of which, especially for remote teams at multiple time zones, is there.pm. Same with Cuckoo Team, which is something that you can use for time boxing so that everyone is on the same page during the design sprint activities on when they need to complete something. You also want to make sure, and this is something that doesn't get said enough, is that your entire team is seeking alignment on everything. Everyone going into the week should know what their roles and responsibilities are. If you don't, then clarify that with the facilitator that's been assigned or at least has been self-declared. You want to know when you're getting together versus when you're working offline, and that's very important. The schedule may say something in terms of you're going to be together from 9 to 12, but what does that mean for your time zone? Double check that, verify it with the facilitator, or you can ask me and we'll work it out. Another thing that I'm going to be putting into the decks that you'll be seeing this upcoming week for Monday and Tuesday is showing visual examples of how this process is going to work. Currently in the middle of designing Mondays, but again, this is something that you'll need to make sure that you have in front of you to understand what you need to do to get offline work done versus online work done when everyone's together. And definitely for Monday, if you're not sure about what you're getting together for, whether it's the Design Sprint Referral Network or Design the Workday or the Readmo app or the Disaster Response app, you want to make sure you understand what's driving it beyond the brief. I'm pretty sure that most teams have the original author on their team, or at least they're within striking distance of being reached out to for questions. Like I'm the author of the Design Sprint Referral Network. So if you have any questions or clarifications on Monday, definitely reach out and let me know. The decision-making tree that's referenced here is one of those things where there's going to be a hierarchy that's assembled within the team eventually, where there's going to be some particular people that are going to make decisions, probably the facilitator in terms of how things are going to go from an execution and process standpoint. Try not to ideate too much, or not ideate, I would say, but get into the nuances of how the process should work and spend more time trying to concentrate on getting things done. If you do get stuck or if you have issues, then please surface them and let me know. A few tips and comments on execution. For when you start the design sprint, make sure that you, wherever you are, have plenty of bandwidth if you can get it. That your camera's positioned properly if you're using a webcam outside of your own computer. Everything works in terms of software, that you've got no issues connecting to Mural. Everyone has a screen, which it seems for this virtual sprint we've got going on, and you're ready to go at that point. But you also want to eat some breakfast, get mentally prepared. The costumes are optional, and of course, if you're the decider, well, It's one of those things where they could look like that, but hopefully they don't have that attitude. You want to maintain a proper flow. So not everyone is going to be able to go for 2.5 hours online straight and get everything you need to get done. For those that are facilitators, try to work in 5 to 10 minute breaks every 50 minutes, which seems to be a good cadence for everybody. If you need to clarify with anyone in the team on when they need a break, then just ask the open questions. Is everyone doing okay? Do you want to take a break away from stuff? Do you need to take a bio break? Do you need to go get a drink? Kind of socialize it, but make sure that everyone has enough time to kind of break away, get what they need to do to get done, and re-engage the team. Be very careful for drift. That happens a lot in virtual sprints. People just kind of pay attention to like social media or something that distracts them. Try to recognize when that happens. You can also do things to kind of break things up. I always like to do Perry grip videos because nobody's really ever known them or seen them. And since I have a 6-year-old, I'm very familiar with them. So if you ever want to check out Perry grip, please do. It's uniquely entertaining, I'd say that. And I think I've heard their songs over 1 billion times, and I can tell you everything about it if you want. Like I mentioned before, try to minimize email and social media when you're doing active remote sessions. I know it's really, what would you say? It's alluring to have it open as a tab or an email or anything else, but the more distractions you have, the less involved and engaged you're going to be mentally with what's going on in the room. You want to make sure that when you start and end any particular day in a virtual remote sprint, that everyone's on the same page about what's happened, where you're going, and what you're on the hook for. Status checks do really well in that regard, especially for things that are unexpected that come up where somebody has to disengage or they have a schedule change. Definitely want to have those kind of baked in. Make sure that those time boxing events that happen with those activities, that either the facilitator or somebody that's designated really watches the time so that you are drifting off in one particular direction or another, and really respect people's schedule and the outcomes that you guys are shooting for, and you should be okay. Also, and this goes without saying, if you're someplace where there's heavy traffic or there's tweeting birds, or you're somebody who's a chronic slurper when it comes to shakes or morning drinks, kind of be, make sure that you're not overly doing it to the point where you're distracting not only people trying to concentrate, but listening in what other people say, and mute your microphone by default if you can. Finally, you want to make sure you do a warm-up exercise every day. I tend to, this is part of the check-in where if you want to put a little bit of fun, you can do a small little game around showing people your shoes, interesting objects in the room that people have caught on the video, whatever you'd like. That tends to kind of break up the monotony of kind of just doing the work and kind of brings the human element into things. If you have time between now and the time you start your sprint, or if you have one handy, usually playlists that you can share with other people are really fun to kind of showcase what kind of music you're in, and gives them an opportunity when they're working alone to try something different and get them out of their normal, what would you say, what they're used to in terms of their musical tastes, and brings them into a new place of perhaps sparking creativity in some way. So that's it. Again, good luck this upcoming week. Working to get all the materials for you by the time Team F and Team E over in Asia, Australia get started. But again, if you have any issues or questions, I'm kind of monitoring the Slack all weekend long, and I'm more than happy to take any questions or jump on a Slack call if you need to. All right? I'll talk to you all later. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye-bye.